maintenance track, everyone. Again, thank you for your patience. I'm very honored to kick off today's track. I've been organizing this conference for 4 years. This is my 5th conference and 4th year as an organizer. And I signed up for the maintainers track because I deeply care about supporting maintainers, active contributors, and newcomers. And unbeknownst to me at the time, this became the theme of SciPy 2023. And I'm glad that there are plenty of people who care about this topic, so thank you for coming. My name is Inessa Posson. I'm NumPy Contributor Experience Lead, and I'm an active contributor to Scientific Python project. Also recently, I started as an open source program manager at Open Teams Incubator. If you've been a Pythonista for a while, you know that Python is much more than a programming language. It's a vibrant and pretty diverse community of people who come from various geographical locations and also with diverse backgrounds, cultural and professional. This track is a place where we discuss how we support maintainers of Python libraries, how we onboard newcomers, and how we support active contributors. This is the committee that organized this track this year. So I would like to introduce Brigitta Sipach, Matt Craig, and Mridul Seth. Brigitta, would you like to come up and introduce yourself? And then Mridul and Matt, if you're in the audience, that would be great if you could join us on stage as well.
Hello, welcome. Super excited about this track. I'm Brigitta Sipach, contributing a couple of projects here and there. I'm based at Caltech. I'm working on NASA science platform and data, public data sets.
Hi everyone, Mridul Seth. I mainly work on NetworkX and try to help around with the broader ecosystem.
I'm Matt Craig. I mostly work on AstroPy and IPy widgets, and I'm delighted to be part of this track because I came to SciPy for the people, and I've kept coming back for the people. And I think it's the core of what we do.
Thank you.
And just a few words about our plan for the next 3 hours. We will start with the talk by Juanita Gomez and Jarrod Millman titled Scientific Python from Init to Call. Then we'll have Abby Mitchell speak about her work in open source, on open source community management in quantum computing. And then the final talk of day 1 of the maintainers track will be by Amanda Kasari, Tharby Dragons, Ethical, Legal, and Policy Challenges when Measuring Open Source. We'll try to stay on time, and we will have signs for speakers to keep them on time. Please don't get too stressed about the signs. Okay. We will have extra 2-3 minutes for you to finish your talk. And now we are going to move to the next slide deck. So just a moment. And Jarrod and Juanita, could you please come up to the stage? And I'll have your slide deck ready.
Okay, thank you, Inessa, and thank you to all the tiers for hosting this track. I am very excited to be part of this track because a lot of what we do is try to support package maintainers, newcomers, and yeah, the whole ecosystem. So first off, I'm Juanita Gomez. I am a PhD student at UC Santa Cruz in computer science. And in my free time, I am also the community manager of Scientific Python, which is what we're going to be talking today. And I'm going to be presenting with Jarrod Millman, who is one of the founders of the project too. So From In It to Call is kind of a geeky name that we chose to talk a little bit about how we started as the Scientific Python project and what has been happening now. And pretty much a lot of the talk is going to be talking about the latest developments and the work that we've been doing. Oh, that's not good. Okay. So the goal of the Scientific Python project was basically to create a joint community around Scientific Python projects. So a lot of the Scientific Python projects depend on each other. They literally depend on each other. And that does not necessarily mean they're talking to each other. So a lot of what we wanted with the Scientific Python project was starting these conversations that are not always easy to have, to take decisions or to work on things together that involve the whole ecosystem and not necessarily a particular project. And then the second thing is supporting maintainers by building cross-cutting infrastructure and tools that, again, will be not for a specific project, but it will involve a bunch of them. This is a QR code for our website, which I'll be mentioning a lot of times, our website. But this is where we can find a lot of the information of the project, what we've been doing. There's this 6 boxes, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking today: the specs, the summits, the development guide, the lecture notes, the sparse arrays, and the community. Okay, it was fine when I exported it, but okay. It's because it's rendering in a different computer. No, it's not.
Just imagine it's correct.
Yeah, imagine it's in the right position. So I wanted to talk about the summits that we've been trying to do. So these summits are meant for us to gather together and work on issues that affect the whole Scientific Python ecosystem. So they're very different to conferences because we don't have talks. It's literally just hands-on working sessions with people. So our first developer summit in person, we did it last month, May 22 to 26. We gathered 34 developers and maintainers from different packages from the Scientific Python ecosystem to work together in the same room. It was hosted in Seattle, the eScience Institute. And basically, we gathered together with all of them, and we started working on topics like sparse data, community guides, release tools, GitHub Actions, and lecture materials, which are actually involving a lot of the projects and packages of the ecosystem. So the goal of these summits is to literally get people together in a room working. We had some minor lightning talks, but the summit was mostly working focused, and we got to meet and talk to a bunch of project maintainers and make decisions and make things happen during this summit. There's a full update on the work that was done in the summit, and it's in the blog of Scientific Python, which it's here. This is our recently merged blog that we got out for our summit, and then there is going to be more information of exactly what we did. We actually have a log document where we had a bunch of PRs that got merged during the summit. But the whole idea, it's kind of seeing all the different topics that we worked on that involved a bunch of the projects of the ecosystem. The other part that we are trying to focus within the Scientific Python project is documentation. So we want the Scientific Python website to be a central place for information, to contain resources for many of the projects. So instead of having one contributing guide for NumPy, one for SciPy, one for there's a lot of common things that can be held in one place. And we want to host this in the Scientific Python project website. And right now we're currently hosting 4 different guides. So we have a contributor guide, a development guide, a maintainer guide, and a community guide, which kind of, they're different in the sense that depend of what part of the process you are. If you're a newcomer, then maybe you should look at the contributor guide. If you're developing but are not yet a maintainer, then the developer guide is for you. And the maintainer guide, which is more about sustaining healthy projects within the ecosystem. And the community guide, which is something that gets me very excited about, because this is a lot of what I do. And it's like, I don't do a lot of technical contributions, but more like making sure that we are a healthy community and like community outreach and building within the project. So we have a community guide for that too. And this community guide was one of the things we worked during the summit. And it is meant for people who are part of the project that do not necessarily do a lot of technical work like me. And we are also trying to get a bunch of other resources like videos for people that are probably new to the ecosystem and want to learn about the scientific Python ecosystem as a whole, and not necessarily learn how to do specific things in NumPy or whatever, but more like onboarding videos for people in the ecosystem. And that is part like of our community building strategy. And I'm all gonna get the mic to Jarrod, who's gonna tell you a lot more of what we have been doing.
All right, so you'll probably have noticed if you're watching this stuff, a huge amount of work seemed to be done. That was true, but there was also a lot of existing work that we took advantage of. So one of them is the Scientific Python Lectures, which was originally known for years as the SciPy Lectures. It had been used quite a bit, and probably many of you had seen it and been familiar with it, scipy-lectures.org. We've been updating that and taking over the project and maintaining it under Scientific Python Lectures. We're about to release a 2023 edition, and we're going to be updating and expanding as we go forward. You can find that at, I think the URL's right here, lectures.scientificpython.org. The other thing which I think I've spoken about, and probably many of you have heard about, are these specs, the Scientific Python Ecosystem Coordination Documents. These are sort of a bit inspired by a lot of the enhancement proposal that individuals' projects have, but unlike those which have some sort of enforcement mechanism, these are just recommendations. And they're meant to replace that feeling that I often have when I'm in my project and I'm working with my colleagues and I want to do something that I don't really know how to do. So I start looking at other projects and try to figure out what they're doing and what the right thing to do is. And so this is a way that instead of having each of us go around and do surveys, we can collect some ideas and look at them. We've got a few of them that have already been quote unquote endorsed. If you go to this website, you can, or our website, you can find the specs and look this information up. But Spec 0 is something I'd recommend everyone looking at. It's sort of the new, expanded, and improved NEPT 29. So it's when you get rid of supporting Python, some version, NumPy, SciPy, a bunch of core projects, what we call core projects are there now, and that might be expanded and improved upon. Also, Spec 1 is something that is really exciting to me. So this was partially inspired by NEPT 29. So NEPT 29 said we dropped 3.6 at some point. When that moment happened, I started looking through the 3.7 Python release notes, started talking to Stefan, and we realized that we could actually do lazy loading, which is something I wanted to do for a long time. And so now, if you have SciPy 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, or something above, but any recent version of SciPy, you can now just say import SciPy as sp dot tab complete, and you can get all of the namespace there without the problem of waiting for everything to be imported. So that's something I think we wanted a long time ago, and I think it's going to make working at the command line a lot easier. And I highly encourage people to start thinking about import SciPy as sp. There's a few other I'll just skip, but API dispatch is one that will probably get withdrawn. Accessibility is about ready. And then the creating nightly wheels, this is another one where there was already a nightly wheel system set up, but this was sort of just formalizing and making it documented and figuring out what the actual process, building some tooling around it. So some of the things we're doing here are already existing efforts we're building on, and some of them are going to be new things that should have been done a long time ago. Sparse Arrays, this is another thing that's been a long concern of mine. So anyone that hates NP matrix will know that the last, I think, real sticking point of getting rid of the NP matrix is the SciPy sparse matrix. And also, I think since SciPy sparse matrix really doesn't fit in with the rest of the ecosystem, we don't have a good sparse story. This effort is really to address that. So there's already now a sparse array API, and there's been a lot of work to move toward implementing 1D as well. That should all land before and get tested before SciPy 1.12. And then the plan is once that's out, then we'll begin a process of figuring out how to deprecate and remove the SciPy sparse matrix and eventually NP matrix, hopefully. There is a report on the blog that gives you more updates. One thing we'll need to do is anyone that happens to be using SciPy sparse matrices, we were very interested in how you're using it and any way that we can help out getting rid of that. And you can read more about that. There's some funding for this. We got a grant from CZI, so there will be a significant amount of work continuing. There's a working group meeting every 2 weeks. If you go to the website, you can find that information. And again, we're looking for more and more people to get involved. And in particular, we want to make sure we understand use cases so that when we build this, it's a really useful thing. And who knows, maybe if things really get accelerated, we'll be able to do more than one in 2D, 3D, 4D, maybe ND, and all kinds of exotic things. So I think this is very exciting, and I hope people pay attention. The developer guide and Cookiecutter template, this is another huge piece of work which I'm really excited about. It was a combination of a couple different projects, but if you go to the website, you'll see there's tutorials that are really geared at summer students or postdocs and trying to get some, so there's code just doesn't disappear. But it also has these in-depth guides that I'm still learning stuff from. There's information about GitHub Actions and all kinds of testing. There's also this really awesome tool that you can go there and you can put in your GitHub URL for your repository, and it'll do a bunch of checks called repo review. And you can see, it'll check if you've got the right kind of license, the right kind of documentation, just all kinds of things that are useful. And then a lot of those things you can click on and find information about what it is to do that. Highly recommend looking at that. DevStats. This is a little project we started. It's a proof of concept to just sort of get a sense of the health of different projects. And during the sprint, we were able to turn what was just sort of a script inside of a website into its own standard repository. So we're going to be developing the website as well and adding to that. But the tool itself now, I think you can run on your own, and hopefully people might be interested in adding new types of developer statistics, grabbing stuff from the GitHub API, and maybe other things as well. Shared tools. So we've also started collecting a bunch of little tools. Some of them might be bigger than other ones, but and one of the things we've had is that we've been getting tools built in different ecosystems, and this is going to be a place where, if you're building a really useful tool in astronomy that really isn't an astronomy-specific tool, for example, PyTest, DocTest Plus, you can put this here, and it's a bit more branded so that people know to look for it. There's also a lot of little things like the lazy loader is a useful tool if you're interested in following Spec 1. Spin is a new tool we have out that will allow you to basically switch between projects and run the same incantation. So, right now you might go to one project and I want to build a doc, so I have to CD somewhere, I have to do some make command, or maybe I run some Python test, or and the idea is that, with a spin command, you just say spin doc, and it has a little recipe that handles everything. We also have the repo review, which is its own project. Right now it's used in our website, so you can look at it there. There's also Changelist, which is a newer project. It is combined with some of the nightly actions, and we're using it for generating change logs or release notes for a few projects. And that partly was because there was originally a project or some scripts to do that in scikit-image, and then that was copied by Napari, and then that was copied by NetworkX, and then each of those projects started changing things independently, which is the story we all have lots of times. And so instead of copying and forking, replacing, and building separately, we're trying to now reconsolidate everything and provide a nice tool. It's got a lot of improvements, and I've been really enjoying it, and I would love to see more people using it. We're also using it in a lot of our internal tools, and hopefully more people will be using it. But basically, it's a very simple way of, when you make a GitHub issue, it has a little check that requires you to add a label of a certain type. You add that label, and then they can use the labels to set up sections and when it generates the release notes. We also have an upload nightly action, so if you're wanting to follow the Spec 4 and upload nightly wheels, that's a tool for that. There's a few other things. We're also working on a new invite new members action, and that tool is going to be used to create actions, which is pretty nice membership on orgs, because right now to create a member in a GitHub org, you have to be an owner, which means you can completely nuke the site. You also have to go through like this crazy UI interface instead of editing a file. So I think that's a really nice tool I'm looking forward to seeing more people use. Juanita?
Okay, and I want to end with 2 slides about how can you join, how can you contact us. So the first is we are going to be having a buff session on Thursday, which means, tomorrow, at 1:15 in room 105. And that buff session is going to be focused on scientific Python ecosystem coordination. We're going to be talking a lot about specs. So if you're interested in coming, listening, what we're going to be doing for the next year or so, come and contribute with your thoughts too. And then the second thing is we're going to have sprints during the weekend for scientific Python. So if this is the first time that you're hearing about scientific Python, that's okay. We're going to have work on documentation too, or guides, or things that are not like super specific of what we've been doing. But if you have been in the specs process and in like the CI infrastructure and all these tools that we're building, please join us on our sprint during the weekend. And then after the conference, you can also join us. So we have our main website, scientific-python.org. And we are also constantly posting on our social media platforms, mostly, I'm going to say Twitter, but we're also trying to keep our presence in the other social media for letting people know about our community and our project. And then these two QR codes, the first one is for our Discord server. So we have a Discord server that has a bunch of channels for different conversations related to scientific Python in general. There's channels for each of the core packages, but there's also meetings channels and community channels. So basically, you can come here and have conversations with maintainers and developers there. So if you're interested, please join our server. And then the second one is our discussion forum, which is in discuss.scientific-python.org, where it's more of it's a discussion forum. So more like topic conversations in our forum. And I think that's it for today. I hope you join us, and we're very excited to our buff and our sprints happening very soon. Thank you so much. Oh, and I have stickers. Questions?
Yeah, we really are, the community is what our goal is. So we're very interested in questions, but we're also interested in feedback or comments or suggestions or volunteering. One thing we're doing, you'll notice, is we're taking tools from individual projects and trying to generalize them or promote them up so that they're more visible to the wider community instead of being siloed in these little pieces. Another thing we're trying to do is just increase cross-project communication. So a lot of our discussion forums, they're not really for us, they're for everyone, right? So we're hoping that it'd be nice to have a place where when you come and ask a question about scientific Python, there's scikit image developers and X-array developers and Numba developers, because often you're really not that interested in just like a specific question about how to use a project. You're trying to solve some scientific project. So yeah, please, comments and suggestions or any feedback would be welcome.
Not so much a question as I remember sitting with you both at the sprints last year, and wow, huge progress in 1 year. What do you think is going to come in the next year?
Well, so one thing is funding sustainability is going to be a really top priority of mine. Right now we have a year and a half of funding the core groups. And so I'm going to be spending a lot of time, I think, networking and talking to more people. I think part of our funding model will probably be having to be shared with other groups. So, you can imagine sort of with NSF or NIH kind of grants that you often have a sort of a core with a bunch of projects around them. So if you are, a scientific lab that are using our tools and interested, we'll be happy to talk about grants with you with us as a sort of a central core project for maybe a bigger program project. The lectures I'm hoping to turn into an actual summer school. So that's another thing I like to do. That's what it was originally written for. These lectures were meant for classroom style teaching, and they were driven by teaching. They're really nice. I think I like to see them expanded, but I think we're going to try to ramp that up. I think we're also going to be hopefully really sort of growing our process of intaking tools. So right now it's been a very precarious process that requires either Stefan or me or one of a few people to do stuff. And now that we're building these tools to add members and repos, we're going to try to bypass the sort of GitHub system that requires ownership, and instead we'll have a repository where some group of us can start having policies and procedures to maybe edit a YAML file and add a new thing and create things, and also have that all version controlled. So late at night when I'm feeling a little less than fully aware and I hit the button and delete things by mistake, I don't have my friend Stefan saying, "Hey, you deleted a whole team and a bunch of members," and then I'm like, "Oh no," and I have to reconstruct that. I also think that Part of it is going to be a lot of the developer summits. We had originally talked about having this annual developer summit, and we've gotten rid of that idea. It was just such a useful and, exhilarating, really great experience. I think I am probably not the only one that felt that, but it was, I think, a really good community experience. And it's something I missed. In the early days, we've had a lot more of these small group meetings. And now that we've become so big and diffuse, I think it's been really frustrating and isolating, and that experience was really great. So I think I'm going to be willing to have as many of them. If people want to host, reach out to us. We've typically done sort of more of an invite style, and I'm probably going to keep that up because we're going to be a little bit focused. These are really like sort of very loose. Like if you ask anyone who went to it, I think they might have had some trepidation with the lack of formal structure that happened. Although I think we were running, I think, within 10 minutes of arriving. I think, and that was partly because we had chosen a bunch of people that we thought had ideas and had things that they needed to work on together. So we're trying to do that as well going forward. But I think we're also looking to expand in other ways that we aren't aware of. Because this is, again, we're trying to be owned by the community and built by the community. And right now, we're doing some steering because we've got some funding to do the work. We got some vision to do the work, but we're very open to more and more people coming on and helping us figure out what that looks like and figuring out what as a community we need and want.
We have one more question here.
Real simple. Just that slide you showed of all the shared tools, are those tools available in some central place, or are they kind of spread out?
So most of them are pip installable. They're all on the Scientific Python org on GitHub. And there's not currently a list, but there is a list. It's not viewable because we just put it up, and I think by the end of this conference, I'm hoping to sit down with a few of the other people and try to figure out. One of the things we want to do is put a little bit of policy in. We just ingested some stuff, and we need to make sure it's clear what we ingest and how we ingest things. So things like probably a BSD3 license would be an obvious one since we're all BSD3 projects now. And we don't want to have problems with that. There also might be some other things around that. And then that will probably, like I said, hopefully go live before the end of this, before Monday, let's say. But yeah, you also just can now go to the org, find it, and all of the listed names you can pip install. Oh, well, I can't remember. There might have been a theme, which is a Hugo theme, which you can't pip install because it's Hugo, not a Python. And the actions are not pip installable because I think you just put them in your GitHub workflow.
Thank you so much for both of you.